I'm going to go ahead and conduct the monthly business review for NuVision Engineering. We're looking at the dates of September of 2013, but we'll also have some historical information since the inception of the account. And in attendance from NuVision, we have Lisa Donovan and Dana Scarfo. From Avanicom, we have Chris Comboy joining us remote, as well as Stephen Jones and Mark Brossman. They're on site with NuVision. And then here at our Network Operations Center, I'm Robin Yates, the Executive Vice President of the NOC, and also have our NOC Manager, Sam Talbert, and Documentation Specialist, Lindsay Wooten, joining us. For today's agenda, we're going to take information from our dashboard forums. We have a number of different live dashboards to get real-time information from, but we're going to look back on it on a historical basis. We're going to do some recap of alerts and or tickets, the creation of those and the distribution, and point out some trends, and point out also any unique observations we may make. We're going to talk about some key performance indicators, not only of the core infrastructure, but also of the resolutions by the Network Operations Center and the Avanicom team. We're going to talk very specifically about accomplishments to date, as well as upcoming activities, any open issues that still remain or observations, and then talk about getting us on a cadence for continual service improvement, other than just being on site, being able to shift that a little more remote, but be able to have a often enough cadence where you feel like you're a desktop away from being able to reach us. And so, does anyone have any questions about the agenda thus far?
Nope.
Okay. To dive in, we're going to look overall as the philosophy of what we're doing, both from a monitoring standpoint, managing the devices, as well as analyzing the information, and then the goal from there is to optimize the environment, and that may also include lifecycle management of both hardware, software. We've done a number of things to date already that were pointed out on the initial, I guess you say, action register for devices to be monitored, but we also have taken that information back here at the 3-month point to say, how have we done on the accomplishment of both remediation and resolving of that. So I wanted philosophically to say, we're coming back full circle now with about 90 days worth of information, and what I'd like to look at is, as we see the total number of ticket volume thus far, we were starting to sense, Chris is able to get online. Excellent. So we were starting to see a trend that was starting to establish roughly 200 tickets, 80 devices. That's about 3 tickets per device. And then we had a pretty large set of spikes in the month of September, and I have some specific reasons to identify that. Those were really represented in maintenance windows. There was a maintenance window that occurred for a lot of the virtualization environment, for some planned best practices upgrades, and then also there was a maintenance window for some power rework that was done on site. And so what we're at today, if we look back on last month, of the number of issues that had come up as far as tickets, there were 391 of those. The NOC passed 0.3% of those over to Avanicom for some on-site work, but they also were doing some action task-oriented effort. In the key statistics, average speed to respond was 4 minutes. That's on RIM-related activities. And then our mean time to resolve was 1.7 hours. And then 98% of all issues were resolved within an 8-hour time window. And so this kind of gives us our key metrics to work from. There can still be some improvement around service desk, as we're going to talk about. But from the core infrastructure environment, we're starting to feel like we've got some stabilization occurring, and we can really start to look at operational excellence kind of as a proceeding forward. Any questions on this slide? So this will be, I don't know how the resolution of your screen will look, but I wanted to be able to talk about of the devices that create tickets. I'd like to analyze your top fives and top tens and see where we can make some areas of improvement. And just from a historical sake, AEA2 is also a domain controller. Of the issues that we were seeing, a number of login failures are like computer to computer authentication failures that were occurring, and those were some I guess you'd say disabled service type accounts that have been modified and isolated. We've got some notes on that as a recap. NuVision server number 22, most of the errors we were seeing are around memory related. That is an Exchange server, and it's also in a virtualization environment, so it will consume all of the memory that you'll let it. And so what we've recommended as a change to go through is to actually isolate that error. That's just normal conditioning, as opposed to, and that's the way it's been denoted on many different tickets. Then NuVision number SV68 that's a host for a virtualization environment where in the combination of the two power outages there's a number of virtual machines on that, and so we were seeing all the guests powering down, and so as a operational process we'll see that as maintenance windows declared to the NOC, so that we can be able to really suppress those alerts before they happen. In the alert types, a lot of what we've been able to clean up thus far are around old computer type accounts that are disabled, and they're causing either login failure alerts, or they're also causing user account lockout alerts that had occurred at some point in the past. From an availability standpoint, if you look counterclockwise, right now 6% of all tickets are considered urgent, and those are typically down related, like enterprise down or some critical device that's a gateway to the rest of your environment. And so availability and not being able to communicate back to the host will cause an availability alert. And what we've done is also started monitoring your upstream carrier. And so your upstream carrier, if they have just a blip in service, will be able to do an alert self-heal for those. So in the combination of what's there, what we've done is looked over the course of 90 days, and this is just last month's statistics, to be able to say what can we de-chatter out of the environment, so that really the issues that our L1s and L2s are working on are not repetitive incidents. They really become more unique type alerts. Does that make sense to everyone involved?
Yes.
There's a couple of key things to note when you start looking at time of day. Is there's a couple of long polls. One is at 93 hour. At about 9 o'clock at night, there's 93 incidents, and that is the planned outages that happened on September the 13th. And the only thing was we had not suspended monitoring during that period, so we were getting a string of tickets related to that. Also, there was the planned maintenance window, I believe it was on a Wednesday the 18th, and so you'll see your two high volume days are around Wednesdays and Fridays. But if those are planned maintenances in the future, I think this will be around 40 to 50 tickets on any given day, and then you take that divide it by 4. You're about 10 tickets a day. From an incident versus problem scenario, there's no real great correlation, because all those were one maintenance event. A lot of those incidents are captured as a child to that parent, so there's nothing notable there, and fairly even distribution of time of day tickets. One thing that is unusual to see is approximately 40% of the problems are happening after hours, and I don't know if we would have known that ahead of time. What I wanted to do was give you a capture of some key metrics. If we look at kind of the trend by week, I was just saying that per day there's about 10 tickets a day, and that's 60 or 70 tickets a week. You can see that trend, and the speed to responds and the speed to resolves are right in line with where we hope they are. In the month of October, now that we've not had, I guess you'd call it one spike event that has a bunch of children, I wanted to see what that trend analysis looked like for the month of October, and we're hovering right around 2 hours for time to resolve on those. Any questions on that analysis?
Robin, if you could just prompt us when you are changing pages. We've lost the graphics on our monitor again, so
okay.
We're going to go on to the printed proposal or printed presentation.
Sure. I'm going to ticket distribution, which is you should see a set of bar charts. It's my page 9, but I added a couple of section headers for it. So it's ticket distribution, slide number 2, with all the bar charts.
Yep.
So we look at week 37. I've already pointed out that that's a power outage scenario. The other key metric to look at is what is the percentage of tickets that our analysts and engineers are able to resolve with one touch, and meaning that we've got a full enough handle or grasp from a knowledge base standpoint around the issues that are there. We're not having to pass it along or escalate it to someone else. And so right now we're at about 61%, which is what I would hope for. When we start off, we're probably going to be in the 40 to 50%. But you look back over 13 weeks, there's been 1,000 tickets. Odd that we end up on a round number. But as we get into performance excellence, and that is, I want that to be in the 70 to 75 percentile of having enough knowledge base background with all the devices that are there that will know the methodology to fix them. And I'm just noting out that the week 37 was a spike event, based on maintenance. If we start looking at devices, this will be coming from the devices themselves. What percentage of memory is being used, or disk space, I should say. And you've got several, and most of these are virtualized servers that are starting to run out of space. We've noted it to Rob Resch and the engineering team so they can do some allocation. Most of your servers are not dynamically provisioned, they're statically provisioned. So before we get into a running out of capacity, we've identified these as the top 5 to be able to have more increase in that volume of the SAN. And the SAN project is pretty well, I would call it substantially complete. There's some lagging data migration that is occurring from one of your key folks, I think, is Tom Marasco. Did I say that last name right?
I should say it's Tom Borowski.
Marasco. And so he's doing quite a bit of data transfer from existing machines over into the SAN, and I think he's doing that as it's convenient to do. But once that is complete, we'll do another probably maintenance window, and then be able to expand those LUNs to be able to capture some more space and have some more availability. What's that? If you look at this as kind of a site health key metric, if you will, and this is anytime that there is either an availability or alert, or the device is not communicating in some way, shape, or form, or it's in maintenance, that will be the percentage of the month that those devices are up. And anything above 99.5 is considered healthy, even though you've got maintenance involved. And we're going to continue to shoot for a 99.9 on that availability metric. There's some other reporting that's kind of added in or overlaid to this sheet, but this gives us the good overall to tell us how we're doing. If we look at another key performance indicator, this is going to be around each device, and this is top 5 statistics around which devices are consuming the most resources. And NuVision 17 had been one of your top problematic servers over the previous couple of months. We got ahead of that at the maintenance window in week 39, and so Rob Resch was able to do some more provisioning, and then NuVision 22 looks as if it's using up all its memory, but that once again is an Exchange server. So somewhat as expected, but I wanted to be able to point it out to you guys visually, what is there. And I went back and looked at that also, that same set of metrics for week 43, and they seem to be the same. Top fives are the most utilized devices. So now that we've talked about devices and what's the overall health of your organization, let's shift gears and talk about kind of the overall speed and performance of the Network Operations Center. I feel like we've, from a July standpoint, which was 3 months ago, I know we're at the end of October, but this was basically last month was September, and then August, and then July, is we had just come out of the transition phase, and we're still working through some of the operational pieces. And so I want to go back and look at why was the mean time to resolve 11.6 hours. And there were a couple of key things. Number one was we were starting to see backup job failures. That was early in the month, and it was fixed and repaired based on some services rework and some accounts that needed to be set up from a service account standpoint. I don't know if you guys had known that it was failing every so often. Did you guys have any awareness of that?
I think only because it was mentioned to me from you guys. I mean, other than that, I wasn't aware.
Okay. And so, I just watched the trending on this ticket. It was repaired right around the 4th or 5th of July. I just remember it because it was a holiday weekend. And then watched it through the weekend, and then the engineer that was responsible for that ticket came back and closed it out on Monday. That's semi-normal, considering it's a holiday weekend. Another one was something that we put into a level that we called root cause analysis. Is Mooresville was seeing a number of Citrix-related issues, login-related issues, and connectivity, and eventually became isolated, and that ticket was to analyze that situation for quite some time. The probable cause on that was identified fairly early, that the Riverbed WAN optimization appliances were doing something that was kind of unusual. They were injecting essentially URL headers into that feed that was going to the Citrix box, and so that was causing the logins to fail. Not every one of them, and it was kind of like just a nagging issue. So that was a period of early on in the June timeframe to July. That total length of observation was about 817 hours, which is a better part of a little more than a month. Also was a replacement of a device for Pittsburgh Hank. I don't know if Hank's an employee or if that's just what the PC was. I figured it was associated to somebody's got a formal name of, I think, Henry, and so that one was, the device was replaced, and then the hard drive was replaced for that. The one I want to key in on is really started as a service desk ticket that ended up as a remote monitoring and administration ticket. Was around I think, Dana, you were going to some IRS websites, maybe even Lisa as well, and you needed to pull down PDFs, but you didn't have the most recent version of Acrobat Pro. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so that upgrade needed to occur back on the provisioning server for really a defined set of users. So that whole process, I look back at it in retrospect, it took longer than it should. However, it's kind of the length of the engagement. So if you start looking at that forward, we'd have several of those experiential things to key off of that. Let's continue to work on incident and or request related items to be faster than some of these longer standing issues. And so you can see in the month of August, the MTTR came down to within the normal operating range, and then in September, it's certainly at an optimal setting. I would I would caution that is that's probably a little padded as far as metrics go, just because we had so many of those related to the maintenance window. However, the thing that is good to point out, now about 97% of all tickets are handled within that 8-hour window, which I can be very pleased with. That's going to conclude kind of the key performance metrics and the continual service improvement around RIM. Is I'm going to shift gears over into service desk, but before I do you guys have any overall sense from your community, being your end users, on the health and stability of your network? What's the water cooler talk around that?
I guess my feeling is I don't know how you feel. I mean, I know there were a couple months back things were a little bit hairy, but lately things have kind of settled out. So in this organization, I consider kind of like no news, good news. I don't know what your feeling is.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I heard the other day was, and I didn't hear all of it completely, but was something about that one Kevin's machine that he was in Minnesota for 6 weeks, and then when he came back, it didn't come on, and it was more of a typical engineering mindset, just on us, that everybody should have fixed his machine, I guess.
I think that's when we determined that there was a motherboard problem and the system would not power up. So I think that even if the computer was, if we're monitoring the machine is off, registered off to the knob, we're not going to see anything until we try and turn it on.
Sure.
And that had to relate to the, we powered all the machines down due to the building
Right.
with the electrical issues. So, yeah.
I mean, he was having issues before he went away, though. I'd have to go back and look, because that's what was supposed to be looked at while he was gone.
Okay.
There was something that was supposed to be looked at while he was gone.
And the ticket associated with that,
It was sort of created here, so it would be something that would have been probably created by one of the guys on site here on campus.
Okay,
That
so-
helps you at all.
all right.
I think it was probably,
Andy or Rob?
That's the only water cooler related comments I've heard.
Yeah. Well, having some background information on no news is good news, that certainly can be something we can keep an eye on. But as we start to talk about service desk, that's an area where I know we kind of jumped off and it was a little hairy in the very beginning. But I want to talk about some of the key metrics that I see that are working, and some areas that I think we should improve upon to really make it a good end user experience. This has got a lot of numbers in it, but it does the historical look back. The headers of all those are kind of alphabet soup oriented, and just so you can be able to put them into a chart form pretty easily. I think by this time everybody's familiar with ASR, from an average speed to respond. The other scenario is average request or wait time. Is what is the period of time that an end user has to wait to get an answer to solve their problem. And then as I look at that, there's a couple of small number of tickets, but one issue can be able to drag on. One that was that I was following somewhat closely is Dr. Laurie Judd is one of your users that I think is remote, and
Yes.
And so he was having problems with his Android, and I know we had some conversations right around that same period of time. He had put in a ticket about 7:55 at night. I happened to be on a baseball field and asked him, could we pick this up first thing in the morning, because I wanted to test out a remote control tool to get to an Android, which is kind of part of his personal area network. And then what occurred is over the next several weeks he was traveling, and so there kept being this ping back to him, can we get together, and the eventual resolution on that ticket was actually, he goes, I didn't like this dang phone anyway, so I bought myself a new one. And that's not necessarily the outcome I would have wanted, but can certainly understand. I'm sure that they got the remote control session started, and they did some configuration changes for his pop-ups that he was having, but still he was not real satisfied with the phone. As I look at the other column, which is average agent wait time, if you start putting those two components together, what is the real business hours it takes to solve an issue? Almost all of these tickets are being submitted by email to helpdesk@evanticom.com, and so it starts a process for us to now find that end user. We do have all the information now about how to reach them, both cell phone and office phone and etc. But I think there's a step that we're going to take to move that even more improved, where what I'd like to do is run a pilot for a tool set that we've acquired about 60 days ago, and that tool set is called LogMeIn Rescue. We had been accustomed to using a desktop takeover tool called Support Assistant, and its challenge was you had to monitor the device, and in the cases where we don't have monitoring on like an iPad or an iPhone or an Android or sometimes even laptops, then you have to now come up with some other session, and LogMeIn Rescue allows us to install an application on whatever device it is, and from that device be able to initiate a ticket and a remote session all at the same time. And so that's something we're going to talk about more extensively to improve both MTTR and average agent wait time, so we can feel like we've closed the loop pretty quickly. The one thing that is, I think, interesting to note, if you look at the very end, customer satisfaction percentage, I don't know if everyone's just being kind or if it's so convenient to. There's only two options in the customer satisfaction: either good, I'm satisfied, get you 100%, or no, I'm not satisfied, get you a 0. And it's I guess the nature of your employees, that everybody's scored at 100%. They're satisfied, they've gotten their problem resolved. And if you look at the next column, it's what percentage of people are actually responding to that. Is there any questions on this slide specifically?
No.
I'm moving to the next slide, which is, and you guys still don't have the monitor at this point, right?
No.
Okay. So if we look at the types of issues that we're seeing called in, there is a fairly even distribution of, connectivity problems. I can't get to Citrix. Desktop application problems within the Citrix environment. Email was relatively problematic for a while because of a combination of what was going on at the Richlands location around the Iron Port and some of the settings that were there. Is that a relatively recent acquisition for your team, Lisa?
The Iron Port?
No, Richlands.
No, they were acquired in 2009, but it's just been since you guys came on board with us that they have switched over to Atlantic, and I'm guessing that's both under the Iron Port. I don't know. They had their own.
We're speaking about the Iron Port.
Yeah.
They had their own appliance or licensing for doing spam filtering in their email, and only recently had we moved them over to the Iron Port. So.
Yeah, I got the feeling, or I got the impression that they were integrated, obviously, to NuVision, but there was something that was new about the IT arrangement that caused that to have to get reworked in some ways. So the Cisco Iron Port was something that had several occasions. We got some nice comments early on when Dave Lashley actually has two different entries. One is his Gmail account sending to us, and the other one is his NuVision proper account. When he couldn't get to email, he couldn't submit a ticket, and so although he could have called, that was just a methodology he was very familiar with. If we look at some of the other ones, user management is the top request type, and then break fix is the top item. And Dana, from the days of where I think it was in July timeframe, you were really the funnel point for all issues. When we had taken the operational approach to where we have the end users educated on how to create tickets for themselves, has that made your life a little easier?
Yes, it does. And the fact that we get copied on the emails when they place them helps a lot too. That way we're still in the loop.
Good.
But I have started, we've had a couple new hires in the last month or so. I've actually put the Advanacom information right in their new hire packet. So this guy, Michael Lee-Jong, is one of our new hires. So, I mean, it's working. And that was the intent, was to give them the information and let them move forward. So that's good to see.
Yeah, if that's the only way they know to get help, then they'll certainly use it, as opposed to, having some historical. What I did want to go through, just for a moment. Was there any questions, by the way, on some of those metrics around, the sources and resolutions of tickets for service desk?
No.
There again, I don't have anything really to negatively compare it to from an unsatisfied user, but most of the end users that we worked with not only have been very pleasant to work with, but have been very, I guess you'd say, willing and accommodating for us to have a session to look into their machine. This newer set of tools that we want to talk about will help us do that better, and the investment around LogMeIn allows us to do, down to the desktop level, some pretty advanced amount of diagnostics on the fly, as opposed to just alerting on issues. Number two is, as I look in the service catalog, is the next slide I'm on, is around just general connectivity related issues. We've all made calls into help before, and the person's asking you questions kind of in a script and can't see what you see. What LogMeIn will enable us to do is to really be able to take over the desktop and speed that process up. The areas where I think we're going to have the most improvement are around, number one is that speed to resolve, mean time to resolve number, and number two is we're making some new changes to the customer self-service portal. And the design of that, normally when you log in, Dana, is you see this general submit request, check on my existing requests, and you can check in through your entire org, correct?
Yeah.
Is what we want to do is start educating users on how to go to that site, because we're going to provide knowledge-based information, frequently asked questions, and also community type help information within that. So as they're typing in their submit a request, 2 or 3 options are going to come up. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And maybe give them a little faster response before they need to reach out to someone, and hopefully solve their problem and anticipate it before they get ahead. So one of those big areas for us is going to be around the self-service portal and its growth here in Q4, as well as LogMeIn Rescue. And I think we've now gotten some operational rhythm around, let's say an end user needs ANSYS installed on their machine. We now have the FlexLM licensing server information to be able to configure those, to be able to set them up, and also around, I haven't had any AutoCADs, but SolidWorks I know was one of them. In the Richlands location was an upgrade to SolidWorks scenario. The next slide that I'll go to is, typically the stack that we support is, the Microsoft stack through the Office productivity tools. And I do want to make note that in March of 2014, Windows XP will be end-of-life support from Microsoft. And there's a number of users still using XP in your environment, so probably need some planning around that before it becomes something that's no longer supported, and not that the information is going to go away on the internet about it, but anything that we could have from a support ticket with Microsoft, that will then end. Are there any questions around this? I just had a couple of key points to make on these two slides. I'm now to the slide where, Stefan, did you include in the slide deck this process flow slide for Service Desk and RMM?
Yes, sir, it's in there.
Okay. One of the things that I added to that was this LogMeIn Rescue application. You probably see this little blue Swiss-looking icon that's on the front. As I would like to have a small set of users, Lisa and Dana, if you would be so kind as to volunteer, I'd like to use it because that tool you can click it and be able to get a support personnel, in a chat session first, and then a ticket is open subsequent to that. And they already have the ability to open up a takeover session. I'd like to have a couple of users volunteer to put it on their desktops, test it out, help us solicit it to other end users, and then on a maintenance window actually deploy that to all desktops. Probably around the 8th of November is the time frame that we're looking at. So if we could find some volunteers around the 1st of November, we'll let it bake in for a week and make sure we have all your configurations ready, and then we'll roll it out. Does that sound like a decent plan to your team?
Yeah, when you talk about the volunteer date, did you want to include North Carolina?
Yes, Mooresville.
See what, absolutely Mooresville. See what Stephen just said
No.
in the message.
What did Stephen say in the message? Yeah, you can demo it to them as we finish up.
But forget my icons if we go to the desktop. That's what your LogMeIn Rescue icon looks like.
Okay.
There. And session. And it's going to contact the service desk.
Yeah, there's typically like a communication setup that expects about 10 to 15 seconds for someone to receive it on our end, and then it becomes real time after it's established that. So, I guess you're demoing it out right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is somebody hitting you back?
And David said right.
Oh, good. So we could carry on the demo, but what I wanted to show you, and we're at about the closeout of the meeting, is both end-user requests and devices requests will consolidate at the level 2 area, so that if something is escalated to a level 2 within our service desk, those guys also have all the accessibilities into the critical infrastructure, and so they know whether they need to escalate to someone local to be able to do dispatch, or to be able to work with the Avanticom team on something that may be core infrastructure related. And then there's an integration for all the ticketing systems that are involved. So that visual will kind of lay out how that roadmap works. I joke around several times that I put this up here just to make everybody's brain hurt. But if we look at kind of the summary, and I'm at the accomplishments and upcoming activities, is on the 13th of September, we finished out the infrastructure upgrades. The team there at Avanticom had done that, and there's still just some data migration. The gentleman's name was Michael Torcaso. I botched it up earlier. Performing the data transfers. They've, as of Monday, and this has been a while in the making, is replacing out the Cisco core switches with Brocade, and then the Cisco switches have been repurposed back to the access layer. We started putting in some automation to go directly to Zendesk for a help desk at Avanticom, and then also have the service manual final revision. Dana, not only was it put up in the portal. I think Chris and his team had also delivered a copy of it to you. Is that correct?
No, I have not gotten a copy of that.
Okay. I know they had printed it at one time around the 1st of September, and it was 300 pages. So do you remember?
Yeah, I think we received one. I guess that would be September. Yes.
Yep. And there's been some updates to it, and so as opposed to killing more trees, it's up in the customer portal under service manual, the updates, and got updated drawings and updated critical device information that's up there. It's probably best done that you subscribe to that, and so anytime a update happens, that you'll get the RSS feed that'll let you know. From a upcoming activities standpoint, is we finished out last time we spoke. Lisa had a something to help them with was to actually do licensing warranty information on the customer portal. Is not only the static information that we're intaking from you, but we've also created out of that what are the expiration dates for all of those softwares. The softwares themselves don't have an OID trigger that says, hey, you've got to pay the bill for the maintenance renewal on me at this date. However, we put in tasks, and we're working on that not only from a pilot standpoint, is probably moving that into a sales order process with Chris and his team, and Mark Brosman's going to help take that over. But there is notification that occurs from a tasking level, and then what we're hoping for is on the first is do the pilot with some of your key folks, and you can help identify after this meeting who they may be for us to do log me and rescue. Any questions on accomplishments or upcoming activities?
Well, I mean, this was on our list too. I don't really understand the riverbed issue.
The riverbed is set to be a WAN optimization tool, and what was occurring for both some issues that were happening with email and some issues that were happening with Citrix Login is that it's an inline accelerator, and what it was doing was injecting into the URL new information, right? And what was happening was it was causing problems or login failures. At this point in time, that device is still in place and it's inline, but it is not. It is in bypass mode, right, or passive mode. What the engineering team at Vanacom is looking to do is take that out of the environment, and if it needs to be reconfigured, we've looked at the traffic analysis between the sites. It's not been so heavy that it was a requirement, but take and reconfigure that kind of from scratch, the two riverbed appliances that are there.
If I can add, on the 19th, we had an escalated ticket that originally started with David Lashley, and email response. So we had our network engineer, Stan Hill, took a look at the environment, and he determined that the problem was as data was being passed inside of the riverbed appliance here. When Sam looked very closely at all three appliances, he found that there was no useful configuration on those devices, and that they had the potential to, and in the case of this one here, could cause more problems as opposed to improving and managing traffic. So as he determined from measuring the traffic flow through the sites, he found that there was not enough traffic between the sites to justify the configuration at this point. So he set them in, as Robin stated, in a bypass mode. So they're still in place in the network, but they're not having, there's no impact or effect of those devices on the traffic. We need to take a close look at the device, determine what's necessary to configure them properly, determine what the best use for them at this point is.
Hey, Stephen, excuse me for one moment. Guys, this is Chris. Sam Hill and I have talked directly on this. Maybe Lisa and Dana, this is a conversation we take kind of offline. It goes back to a lot of configuration things that were not done on it, but maybe we can talk through some options there. Is that okay?
Very,
Yeah.
very good for me. The next item in the open issues is doing some software upgrades to SolidWorks 2013. I think this is very specifically for Richlands. The challenge with that is the machines that they want to do it on are on XP, and at this point in time, SolidWorks 2013 is not supported for XP. And so there were a couple of different options of whether it could be deployed on a Citrix environment, and it could be in a Windows 7 OS, or to just simply upgrade the machines that would need SolidWorks 2013. And I'm sure that's a Andrew Garrity and yourself, Lisa, conversation on which methodology makes the most sense. If we went,
Well, the way I understood that what was going to happen was we had some NuVision staff members that have older versions than 2012. So that's what was causing the issue to not allow us to put the license on the network for 2013.
yep,
But I guess the way, through the research that we've done with Rob and what he looked into, was that if we upgraded all the users to 2012, we could put the 2013 license on without any backlash, without any issue.
okay,
The NuVision users would continue to use 12, and then MCE could go in and pull the 2013 license. So I thought that's what we were working towards, but then yesterday when Andy was in, I don't know, he was talking regarding some issues with upgrading some of the NuVision staff members, but there were a few, at least one machine that I could think of offhand, that I don't really care if it gets upgraded or not. Well, actually, it is not. It is being used now. That was Chacho's machine. That has 2010 on it. I don't know if that's one of the ones that was an issue. Then there were a couple down in North Carolina in the Mooresville office. But I don't know where that all stands at this point. But that was the way forward on that. So I don't know, and it wasn't an urgent thing with MCE, but I did promise them resolution, within a month or two so that they could start to pull this 2013 license.
sure. I think it would require just a heads-up meeting with probably Andy and Andrew Garrity, and we'd be willing to participate here at the NOC as well, and seeing what's the vision or plan forward. And
Yeah. I mean, the most of, at least in my eyes, most of the work and the discussion happened with Rob. How do you say that, right?
Resh, yeah,
Rob Resch. But I don't know if he's transferred all that knowledge to Andy or not, for sure. I don't know where everything stands once you guys leave here. So wherever that lies at this point.
yeah. We'll take that as an action item, Mark, and we'll set up a follow-through meeting on it. The other one is we have all the licensing information into our systems from a notification standpoint. I needed to ask the question: are we sure we have all the licensing from the Richlands MCE environment?
I would not say for sure that we have that because we don't really deal with it. That's going to be an Andrew Garrity issue.
Yep.
Other than the ones that we're sharing now with the Semantic, and they do come in remotely and access ANSYS and SolidWorks, but other than that, I don't really know what they have out there. I mean, he could probably provide you with a list. I'm sure he wouldn't have an issue with that.
Yeah, in a effort to be thorough, I thought I would bring it up as an open issue. We didn't know how to answer the question, whether it was the other two remote offices. Do we have all the software, cataloged and inventoried and notifying? And the way the workflow is going to go, Sam Talbert, our NOC manager, will get the dates. We've already noticed that some of them, as soon as we put them in, was already past due. Just trying to give you a heads up ahead of time that the renewals are going to be coming due, as well as Chris as part of the sales team. So you may get, I guess you'd say, notification emails from a Sage or trying to remember all. What's that? Mattel. Mattel doesn't sound right, but that's close. So before you get those emails, you'll kind of have a heads up to start planning for them. And from a observation standpoint, is a couple of things that we've already been doing is we've looked at isolating low memory on the virtualization machines so that we didn't have such a high number of tickets around that. Number two was around login, is isolate those types of errors. And so what we're hoping to have is a new baseline on our next MBR for what is the unique number of issues as well as end-user related issues. And the last one is any of those Windows XP devices for that are OSs for your engineers is start to plan for those as they start to become end of life. Chris, was there any other items you wanted to cover? We're at about an hour and 15 minutes, and I feel like we were maybe even overly thorough this first time.
From information that we want to deliver, I don't believe that there's anything else. I would take it back to Lisa and Dana. Are we providing the information that you hoped we would? Are there areas for improvement? And on a moving forward basis, is this the right delivery mechanism to give you the information?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with this. This is certainly thorough, and I don't have anything additional that I think that we would like to see at this point. I think just from our standpoint, we do have a few more open issues, a few more items that we may want to, and I don't know if it involves North Carolina or if it's just something that we need to talk with. I don't know if it's you, Mark, or Todd Murray, or who exactly at Advanticom. Just for open things that we have regarding like our semantic licensing. We've got issues with our Cisco switches. Different things that we have open. We know the XT is an issue, and as opposed to us just keep saying that we need to switch out and we need to replace, I know that the recommendations keep coming in to replace, but I think that we really wanted to step up this trial run on the virtual environment for the engineers to see if that's an option before we replace things in March. I mean, I don't want to spend all this money on computers if we can actually implement the virtual environment.
Lisa and Dana, what if I send over some dates today for Stephen and I? That would be the catalyst to really kind of make sure that we have any of the open issues either in line for being addressed or what the action plan is going to be. But Stephen and I to come down on site and let's just go through each one of those open items. I'll ask Mark to attend as well. And does that seem like a good, reasonable plan for it?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good move because everything, for the most part, that we have on our list.
Except for that semantic, only because it's expired.
Oh yeah, we don't want to wait too long. Yeah, I don't know. The semantic quote came over from Stephen, I believe. So I thought it was Steve.
Yeah, he was.
And he recommended something else.
Right,
Micro work.
Yeah.
And I just had pushed back with some questions. And
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
go ahead, you.
Well, he said that Stephen's response was that he would get with Rob, and I had talked with Rob back on October 15th, and he told me that he had created a document, forwarded his findings, and put them back to Stephen.
To Stephen to that. Yes.
But we haven't got anything from the back end coming back from Stephen yet.
I will follow up on that right now, guys.
Yeah, because I mean, if they expired on the 8th, I'm a little concerned, especially now that everybody's using it, including FTE. So we don't want to
Understood.
issues with that.
The Cisco support, that's in our support.
Do we have questions? Further questions, or are we good?
Well, I do have a
Yeah, Chris, you broke up there.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm in the car, but I had a hard time hearing what the question was that Dana was asking.
When Renee sent the original quote, she had 6 Cisco antennas listed. So we can only find documentation that we purchased 3, 2 sitting in Pittsburgh, 1 sitting in NCE. So at first I kind of thought like maybe it was 2 antennas on 3 machines, but Renee said no, it's just the base unit. So I'm not sure. I provided her the serial numbers, and she kind of came back and said that she would check with Cisco, but I guess I just don't know what happened to the other 3, if it was an error on Cisco's end. Do we really have them, and we don't know where they're at?
Okay. I do not know that answer, but I will try to sort that out internally and see what I can find out for you.
Okay. And then the other issue that's, I guess, kind of, it is all quieted down momentarily, but we have several individuals down in North Carolina that are on Vista machines, laptops. And we really need to get some quotes in for laptops. I know that who was it supposed to get at a certain dollar level we can see a break.
Yeah, Stephen said that if at $15,000, Dell would, there would be a price reduction.
Okay.
But it wasn't based on quantity, it was based on dollars. So I do have a spec that I could send for, we bought a laptop. Actually, we bought that laptop from you guys.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that it would work as a base
Okay.
off everyone.
And how many are we talking? We're talking,
Well, this is it's for,
no. But I don't know that the laptops in Pittsburgh that we're replacing.
the tank or, I don't know what they have. Six, 7,
Who is that the number?
8.
What is for, oh, you said.
We have an 8, but I'm sure it's more than that. We're not in time for, I have to see what our gentleman out in Richland, Washington has, and then check Pittsburgh users.
September, can you make sure that you capture some of these things in notes? It's breaking up for me. I'm not able to really take good notes here. So please make sure that we have an accurate account for that. What I will do, Lisa and Dana, as soon as I get somewhere where I can effectively get online, I will pull some calendar dates, hopefully here before the end of the week. And if not into the early part of next week for Stephen and I to be on site. Let's assign each one of these issues. I will make sure that either we have the answers for, or we know how we will have the answers for that meeting.
That would be great. Okay, yeah, because there's going to be a few other items too, just to give you a heads up in regards to, we have that North Carolina stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Christy did respond to me on the North Carolina fence, and Lisa did want me to come back and try to get something scheduled. I haven't done that, but that's on our list. So you're aware of that.
Yeah. So we can discuss through that. I don't know the Intel product well enough. I just need to understand the functionality that they're looking at, and then I can help evaluate.
Okay, what we did, Chris, was actually Dana put together an open items list for us with some
Okay.
back support. So we're going to send a packet of that back with Mark, and he'll pass it along to you.
Thank you.
Things you might not recognize, like we also want to discuss a conference room phone with you guys, and we have this new television that we need to get set up properly and what we need to do with it. But I was thinking we could actually maybe talk with whoever is on site on Monday morning about that, kind of pick their brain and see what they think in regards to that. That's the best way to handle it.
Let's try that, but hopefully Stephen and I are in before that anyways, and we'll make sure that our team is prepared for it. Is that okay?
Yep. All right. Other than that, I think that's it. We're good for now. So So we appreciate this presentation, Robin. That was really helpful, and you know, by chance have an extra one of these.
Well, Lisa, I'm going to be putting this entire deck up on the customer portal, and so if you're subscribed at all to it, in the monthly business review, you'll have a video of it with all the audio, as well as a PDF of this same presentation.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
maybe can you sort of shoot us a note when that's available?
yes, ma'am. Be glad to.
Okay, then. Pass that on. Maybe we can get my.
And we're at a stage today. The last slide was around continual service improvement, and we're at a good point where we can start to have some very good historical metrics, and look forward to some improvements in the environment around availability, capacity, planning, and also looking at kind of a game plan for just overall transformation between now and say June of next year. And so we'll start outlining some new objectives with the Avanticom team around some of those metrics. So that's our game plan at this point in time. So I'll send you guys out a note that it's all up and ready, and point you in the right direction on where it's going to be located.
Okay, great.
Sure
All right.
thing. I guess we'll conclude the
Thank
call.
you.
We'll turn off recording, and thanks again for making the time.
Thank you.